Hello guys, in continuation of the earlier class, we came to know that rotor copper loss PC is equal to slip times that of rotor input. Okay, so we found relation between P2 as well as PC. Still PM is remaining because the topic was relation between P2, PC, PM, right? So I need to find relation between PM as well. So the rotor total copper loss is slip times that of rotor input. Okay, this is what they have written here. Now what I'm going to do is, anyhow we know that gross mechanical power developed is what? Total rotor input minus total copper loss. If I subtract one from another, I will be getting what? Gross mechanical power developed. Okay, and we know that PC is equal to S times of P2, so I'm going to substitute PC as S times of P2. So after substituting, what happens? I can take P2 as common, so what I get in the bracket is 1 minus S times of P2. So what I can say, the gross mechanical power developed is 1 minus S times that of rotor input. Okay, PM is equal to 1 minus S times that of rotor input. So we found relation between PC P2 as well as P2 PM. So only thing is, we need to organize. Okay, the relationship can be the ratio form. As you can see, P2 is to PC is relation what? 1 by S. So P2 by PC equal to 1 by S. And PC and PM relation is what? S by 1 minus S. So all together if I write is, right means it will be what? 1 is to S is to 1 minus S. This is very important as per the problem sake and all. So please all of you remember this. Okay, P2, PC, PM is 1 is to S is to 1 minus S. Okay. Again, it is very simple. You can get here. You can see P2 by PC is what? 1 by S. Yes or not? You can take PC here. So it will be S here. So it will be 1 by S. So P2 by PC is equal to 1 by S. You can see P2 by PC is equal to 1 by S. Okay. So ratio. And PC as well as PM. PC as well as PM. Otherwise, you can write it as like this also. P2 by PM is equal to what? P2 by PM is equal to 1 by 1 divided by 1 minus S. Okay, 1 divided by 1 minus S. P2 by PM. You can see P2 by PM. This as well as this P2 by PM, if I divide, means 1 divided by 1 minus S. Okay, same thing is arranged in the ratio format. Okay, so it's again the same. With the shaft torque or useful torque, as I said, it is given by P out by omega, or P out is equal to omega into TSH 2 pi n by 6. Remember, it is not ns, it is always n, because we know that your induction motor runs at the subsynchronous speed. And one more thing, we know that shaft torque is always less than the gross torque. Okay, you can call this T as gross torque due to mechanical losses. Okay. Now coming to the efficiency of an induction motor, you can see efficiency, it is plotted across versus output of the motor. You can see here the maximum efficiency occurs at what? At point A. When it is possible only when variable loss is equal to the constant losses. Okay, this is the overall efficiency of an induction motor. P output, mechanical power output, net power output, as well as P input is what? P input is the electrical input. Okay. Initially, you can see that during no load condition, what happens? What the current drawn by the motor will be also very less. So what happens? The efficiency is also less, because our induction motor will be running at the poor power factor, and the output of the motor will be also very less. As the load increases, what happens? The current drawn by the motor will also increase. So what happens? The motor will start to improve its power factor. Okay, slowly what happens? Efficiency will increase. Okay. Before what happens? Before there will be only iron losses, constant losses, but there will be no any copper losses theoretically, but practically even copper loss will also exist. But theoretically we are ignoring initially. Initially it will be only iron losses. As load increases, iron loss will be always there. That will be constant throughout the efficiency curve. But copper loss will change as per the load condition. Again, if I increase, again the load current increases, again efficiency will increase, again power factor will be improved. And power factor, you can see finally what happens at point A, you can see that the variable losses will increase, will be equal to what? Constant losses. From here to here, what happens? You can see constant losses are always present here, but here variable loss will be less. From this point to this point, variable loss will be less, and from here this point it will go on slowly increasing till it reaches at point A. At this point A, what happens? Variable loss will be equal to the constant losses. Okay, here when we get the maximum efficiency. What next? What next? Again, if I overload the motor beyond the ratings of the motor, what happens? You can see again the motor, it gets saturated, the core gets saturated. What happens? It draws more and more current, but the efficiency of the curve will decrease. You can see the efficiency of the curve will decrease as again if I increase the load of the motor beyond the rating of the motor. So the power factor will be again low, so the efficiency will be severely getting affected. Okay, you can see the load is increased further greater, the constant loss, hence deviating the condition from the maximum efficiency, hence starts decreasing. Okay, nature of curve. Keep it. So next one is what we shall see, equivalent circuit of an induction motor. See, equivalent circuit of induction motor is similar, very similar to that of your transformer. In transformer also we are having what? Primary and secondary. Primary is connected to the supply, whereas secondary is connected to a certain load. Right? Here also we have two things. One is stator as well as one as rotor. You can consider stator as primary and rotor as secondary. Okay, into the stator we know that electrical input is given, and rotor, what happens? Rotor, you are going to give a mechanical output. Okay, rotor, any load can connect, that is mechanical load can be connected, but in the transformer electrical load is connected. That is what the one difference. Okay, and there also what happens in transformer, whatever the power is transferred is by what? Induction. And here also what? Power transfer is by induction process only, mutual induction, Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. Okay, here stator acts like a primary and the rotor acts like a secondary. Okay, so let us say E1 be the induced EMF in the stator per phase, that is in the stator part, and E2 be the rotor induced EMF per phase on the standstill, means whenever your motor is it's about to start, when slip is equal to 1. Okay, standstill in sense what? When slip is equal to 1, E2. So K is equal to, we know the transformer ratio is E2 by E1 or V2 by V1, same thing. You're going to write K is equal to E2 by E1. Now we know that E1 will remain always same, but E2 will change as per the slip condition and all. So we know that the relationship between E2 and slip is what? E2R is equal to S times of E2. We have already derived that. E2R is equal to what? Rotor induced EMF in the running condition. So E2R is equal to slip times that of E2, which you have derived in the earlier classes. So we need to consider that. So I am defining now E2R be the rotor induced EMF in the running condition per phase, where R2 be the rotor resistance per phase. We know that doesn't change. It is whether it is if it is a slip ring induction motor, if you are changing means it will change. Otherwise, if it is squirrel cage induction motor means R2 will never change. Okay, what changes is whether it is slip ring or squirrel cage, X2R. Okay, the reactance in the rotor will always change depending upon the slip condition and all. Rotor reactance per phase in the running condition, and R1 be the stator resistance per phase, and X1 is the stator reactance per phase, and that remains constant. Okay, in the stator part. So this is how induction motor is represented, similar to that of transformer. You can see this is the primary part, that is the stator part, whatever the left part, and this is, you can see this part is what? This is the rotor part. Okay, and you can see that the primary side, similar to the transformer, we have R1 X1, and this is R0 X0. This is the excitation circuit, and this is the reactances of the primary part. This is where connected to the stator. Okay, it's all per phase. Okay, actually like this we'll be having 3 phases, but for the sake of convenience we are just showing 1 phase. Okay, and again you can see the rotor is connected to a certain circuit here, that is R2 as well as X2R. X2R, as I said, it is slip times of the reactance in the rotor part, and E2R is equal to slip times that of E2, which we have derived. These two things we have derived in the earlier class. Okay, but one thing you can see here, instead of load connected here, we are shorting the rotor. Yes or not? There in transformer, actually R2 X2R, these are all same. Okay, slip will be not there and all in transformer. That is what the change. Again, similarly here also slip will be not there, but will be times of K times and all. Okay, but here in the transformer there was actually an electrical load connected here. Okay, otherwise it would be open circuit if load is not connected. But here either you connect or don't connect the load, we know that rotor is a short circuited load. Yes or not? If I am considering a squirrel cage type rotor, the rotor is a short circuited one, so there is no any load connected here. So directly what I'm going to do is connect R2 X2R, and again you short it. Okay, so I'm going to short it, R2 X2 connect in series and short it. Okay, again you can see that the current I0 has 2 components. So I naught where it flows, actually here rather than getting into this, we shall see this itself, an equivalent, basic equivalent circuit. Okay, so we can understand things better here. So you can see this is the stator part and this is the rotor part. Whatever EMF is induced through what? Mutual induction. Okay, this is the right one is rotor, the left one is stator. So R1 X1 is there. Here also R1 X1, and this is the excitation circuit. Here also it is excitation circuit is there. And here instead of showing to the stator here, this was the basic diagram here. But we need to show some inductions here. So it's a coil. Okay, this is a stator coil. Okay, connected here, the stator. And again we know that there is a air gap between the rotor as well as stator, and this is the rotor coil. It's connected like this, rotor coil. Along with that, we know that it has its R2, that is the resistance, as well as it has its own reactance. It is S times of X2. And again we can know that I can directly, it is shown here, it's as it is variable, so it is shown like this. R2 is constant one, so it is shown like this. It is connected back to this, so there is only load connected here, right? Okay, means it's a short circuited load. And again you can see that whenever I give supply input, so we know that I1 flows, start to flows here, yes or in the R1 as well as X1. Again what happens, it deviates, and again I1 will splits up into I0. Okay, splits up into I0. Again what flows here, actually here they should have shown here I2 dash here. Okay, I2 dash here, you can consider that. Okay, so I1 minus I0 will be I2 dash, similar to that of transformer. So I0 again splits up into IC as well as IM, and IC is what? The IC is the core current, and IM is the magnetizing current, and whatever IC is utilized to supply the core losses, and whatever IM is there, it is utilized in for the excitation sake. Okay, for excitation of the circuit. And here what flows in the secondary part, here what load current I2 flows, and again we are considering the running condition, so it is I2R. Okay, the same thing is given. IC is the active component which supplies the no load losses, this is IC, and IM is the what? Magnetizing component which set up the flux in the core as well as air gap. That's what I said, excitation. For excitation's sake we are using the IM. Okay, one is for the eddy current, one is for the hysteresis loss. Okay, so I0 is equal to IC plus IM. And what is R0? It is V1 by IC, because we know that the voltage across this is V1, so R0 is equal to V1 by IC. And what about X0? X0 is equal to again V1 by IM. Okay, V1 by IM. And again what about I2R? Can simply write the formula. You can simply write the formula here. We know that in terms of KVL, E2R is equal to what? We know that I2R is flowing the circuit, and you can consider R2 plus SX2 as Z2R precisely. So E2R is equal to I2R into Z2R. Yes or not? So that is what it is written here. I2R is the rotor running rotor current in running condition. I2R is equal to E2R by Z2R. If I apply KVL, it will be what? E2R is equal to I2R into Z2R, where Z2R is R2 plus SX2. Okay, if I take mod means Z2R, it will be square root of R2 square plus SX2 whole square. Okay, and coming back to this, one more way of representation of rotor impedance you can see here. I2R is equal to S times of E2. This is already written, but you can take S common here, that is S square common here. If I take S square common, then what happens? S will be out, so this S and this will be cancelled out. So we know that R2 by S whole square, S or not, plus X2 whole square. Here what I have done is I am taking S square as common. So outside if it comes means it will be S gets cancelled. So this is a representation. We shall see why we are representing like this in the fashion in the coming part. And again we know that we are considering this R2 by S. R2 by S can be represented as R2 plus R2 by S minus R2, because anyhow if it gets cancelled again the source will be coming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take R2 as common here. If I take R2 as common, what happens? 1 minus S minus 1. So again you can represent it as 1 minus S followed by S. So here what happens, where R2 is, so R2 by S equal to R2 plus R2 into bracket 1 minus S by S. So R2, the first part, we have two parts here. Yes sir, we have two parts. The first part is R2. So what is R2 is? R2 is the rotor resistance itself, which represents for the copper loss. Whatever copper loss is occurring, it is because of this. The second one is, you can see R2 into bracket 1 minus S by S. It is called as what? Load resistance. Yes, we are finding here virtual load resistance. Before we are shorted, right? We are shorted there. So in order to show the virtual load resistance, we are doing all these things. So your R2 into bracket 1 minus S by S represent the virtual load resistance. So it is an electrical equivalent of the mechanical load on the motor. If the mechanical load is connected, then what happens? This represents that. Okay, if slip is equal to 1, then what happens? 1 minus 1 equal to 0. So this part will be equal to 0. Okay, so whatever this parameter is there, right? This parameter depends on the mechanical load condition. Okay.